What's good, YouTube, man? It's your boy Student Studios, man. We back with another reaction video now. I upload in a minute, not too long ago, but you know. Anyway, man, nobody care about that, man. Hope y'all having a good day. Hope y'all staying safe. And I'm finna get right into the reaction, man. But before I get into the reaction, man, hit that like, subscribe, turn on that bell, man. Not wasting no more time. We're gonna get right into it.
Cult classic horror films that paved the way for the genre in the 80s and 90s, there exists a trope involving a babysitter being home alone and preyed upon. Of course, these films are works of fiction, but there are numerous mysteries out there that go to show that they often stray close to reality. In today's episode, we'll be exploring two nightmarish cold cases involving babysitters. But first, I'd like to thank Magellan TV, without whom this video would have been impossible to make. If you've tuned in to a cold case detective video in the last year, odds are you've heard us rave about our partnership with Magellan TV, the best source for the hottest and most intriguing true crime content available online. You know about their curated documentaries and bingeable television shows.
I don't.
And how they go beyond the realm of true crime to deliver unbelievable deep dives into other topics like space or history or the supernatural.
My dad shot me.
There is always something to watch. To give you a better glance into the plethora of videos available within the Magellan TV library, we want to talk a little more in depth about one of our favorite titles we recently saw that we know will make you fall in love with Magellan TV all over again. This week, we actually want to venture away from true crime to highlight the nature-focused documentary Antarctica, a 51-minute film giving us a never-before-seen inspection of one of the most desolate and underexplored places on Earth. The production takes you across Antarctica's infinite ice deserts, canvassing the rough terrain to photograph the beautiful landscapes, the unique wildlife, and showcase
Penguins.
the land's imminent danger.
And what are those, seals?
Science and adventure, while never becoming too boring or plain. We love it because it does justice to explaining a mysterious topic like it's more than just any old enigma. Exactly how we create our own videos on Cold Case Detective. Antarctica is also a
Antarctica.
release, part of Magellan TV's 15 to 20 hours of brand new content they will add to their library every week, always leaving fans of true crime and other topics with something fresh to binge and enjoy. Use the link in the description to access a 3-month trial and jump into the wondrous exploration of Antarctica and other top-notch documentaries. And now let's dive in with today's mysteries.
Cold-blooded murders. Damn, they sleeping in the crib. Missing persons cases. Cold Case Detective.
You're a content creator. You want to be recording high-quality podcasts yourself. Something you'd actually be proud of and you want representing your brand. What's all?
Laurie Lloyd.
Laurie Lloyd.
Lloyd was born on October 27, 1962, and was the youngest of 5 siblings. Her older sister, Joni, recalls that Laurie's favorite things were animals, attending school, and running. But as she became a teenager, her world darkened. She began to run away from home until it reached a point where Laurie and her entire family went to counseling together. The teenager explains that as the youngest of the group, she often felt overlooked and as if she wasn't receiving much attention. Although things seemed to improve from here, it still wasn't perfect. In the months leading up to her disappearance, Laurie reportedly experimented with drugs, attempted to take her own life, and moved in with Joni because her mother wouldn't let her paint her bedroom walls black. Even so,
Are you serious?
when she vanished in 1976, Laurie's family members noted that the teenager had been in good spirits and was doing well in school. She also hadn't run away in months. On the evening of February 11th, 14-year-old Laurie babysat her 3-year-old nephew with a friend in her hometown of Kettering, Ohio.
Ohio.
Laurie's mother Anita Smith,
Catherine.
dropped off some pizza for the two friends. She noted that nothing seemed amiss in the house that night. Anita then left, not returning until after midnight. By the time she did so, Laurie was gone. However, her friend and nephew remained behind, sleeping peacefully, ignorant to the fact that the 14-year-old had vanished. Anita woke Laurie's friend, who told her that she had gone to the nearby 7-Eleven, 3 blocks from the family home on Annabelle Drive. She had gone to purchase cigarettes at around 11 p.m., and the walk should have taken her less than 15 minutes each way. However, when Anita arrived at the store, located at 3613 Wilmington Pike, she was told by colleagues that no girl fitting Laurie's description had been in. That night, Anita drove around the streets of Kettering, looking for any trace of the teenager, but she found nothing.
Oh,
While a
shit.
backpack had gone missing from the family home, Laurie's belongings still remained. She had left behind her clothing, her private phone book, her Bible, and her handbag. Her bank account was left untouched. There have been few leads in Laurie's case over the years. Her family feel that the initial investigation was hampered because the teenager was a known runaway. This is something we often hear on this channel, that the police do not act quick enough when a child has vanished
Nope.
if they have a history of running away. Loved ones have also pointed out that when Laurie would take off, she always stayed with friends and called home to check in with her siblings and mother. One of Laurie's friends told the police that the teenager planned to meet a boy that night who said he could take her to California. Laurie was born in Fontana, California, and her estranged father lived in the States, but he had barely kept in touch with his 5 children since leaving, so family members found it odd that she would go and seek him out. If this boy ever existed, he has never been identified. 4 years after she vanished, Laurie's family traveled to California. They had seen a documentary about the drug angel dust.
I'm not laughing at
Noticed
this.
an extra in the background of one of the shots that resembled Laurie.
No.
The scene the
I'm laughing
extra
at the phone.
appeared was filmed in a Santa Monica drug rehabilitation center. The producers of the movie attempted to identify the girl, but found that she had not signed a release before filming. She has never been identified or located, and it is unknown if this girl was Laurie. The filmmakers, Dave Bell Associates, became interested in the teenager's case after speaking with her family. They decided to create a documentary about missing and runaway youths in a film titled Whatever Happened to Laurie Jean Lloyd, which they released in 1981. Although it was shown in 88 cities across the US, no useful leads were uncovered. In 2004, the Doe Network reportedly listed Laurie as having returned home safe. Her siblings were surprised by the change in case status and contacted the agency, who told them Detective Wolf, spelt W-O-L-F-E, or occasionally W-O-O-L-F, from Kettering PD, had been in touch with them to let them know Laurie was no longer missing and endangered. This seems to have been caused by poor communication and misinformation, as the teenager has never been seen nor located since she went missing.
Sad,
The
man.
most recent update in Laurie's case came in 2016, when family members who run the Laurie Jean Lloyd Facebook page announced that her dental records matched a Jane Doe who was discovered on April 17, 1976, in Grant County, Kentucky. She had died just days before her nude body was located. Listed on the Doe Network site as 930
Nigga, damn.
KY, Jane Doe is described as being between the ages of 13 and 15, although she was originally thought to be between the ages of 20 and 30, 5'2" and white, with light brown long hair. Shorts, presumed to have belonged to her, were found near the body. According to Laurie's family, a detective with the Kettering Police Department had a dentist friend of his look at Laurie's dentals and Jane Doe's,
Oh,
and
Jane
believed them
Doe.
to be a match. Despite this apparent confirmation, both case files are still up on several agency websites, and Laurie's case has not been listed anywhere as resolved. No news agency has covered the story, and authorities do not appear to have formally announced the supposed match. A DNA match cannot be made, because Jane Doe's body is lost somewhere in Potter's Field, among other grave sites. To add to the confusion, some sites, including the Unidentified Wiki, list that Jane Doe was incorrectly identified as Laurie, and that DNA disproves the two are one and the same. Laurie's family mentioned in comments dated May 8, 2022, that they would look into these claims. Laurie was 14 when she vanished from Kettering, Ohio, on February 11, 1976. after leaving her home on Annabelle Drive to visit a convenience store on Wilmington Pike. She is described as a white woman with long brown hair and brown eyes. She was around 5 feet tall and weighed between 102 and 110 pounds when she was last seen. She also has a gap between her 2 front teeth and had scars on her wrists from a suicide attempt. Her ears are pierced, and at the time of her disappearance, she wore a sweater and jeans, and possibly a t-shirt and jacket. If she is still alive, she will be 59 years old. If you have any information about Laurie's case, you can call the Kettering Police Department at 937-296-2555.
There's a number, bro.
Opera GX, the most web browser ever made. Do you struggle with the lack of notifications?
Diane Hank.
Diane
On
Hank.
January 6th, 1954, 16-year-old Diane Hank called her 23-year-old friend Sherry and told her that she had a belated Christmas gift for her husband and wondered if she could bring it over. Sherry encouraged her to do so and invited her to stay for dinner, but told her to ask her mother's permission first. Diane's mother agreed to let her go, and the teen went on her way. Sherry Fong, whose real name was Marjorie Lovell Fong, and her husband, Wei Him Fong, who went by Wayne, had met the Lincoln High School student 3 years earlier in 1951, when they searched for a babysitter after moving to Portland, Oregon. The couple had one child together, and when they brought Diane into their lives, they quickly became close. Sherry, in particular, had taken a real shine to the teenager. The two exchanged lavish gifts, borrowed each other's clothing, and Diane would sometimes stay the night. Aged just 15, Diane had given birth to her own child. She often brought the baby, Catherine, with her, and cared for both children at the same time. When Diane arrived at the Fong's residence, she discovered another couple. Mr. and Mrs. Jean Smalley were already there, having drinks with Sherry and Wayne. The pair knew Diane and greeted her warmly, but opted out of... She discovered another couple. Mr. and Mrs. Jean Smalley were already there, having drinks with Sherry and Wayne. The pair knew Diane and greeted her warmly, but opted out of having dinner with the trio, leaving soon after. Mrs. Smalley would later recall that Diane consumed 2 martinis while they were there, and was acting silly by the time they left. There was reportedly evidence that the teenager had as many as 5 martinis that evening. 2 people spoke to Diane on the phone later that night. One of them was a friend of the 16-year-olds, who later stated Diane's words were very blurrish. She said her friend told her they were having a party, and that they were going to have dinner, and she said she was high. The second person
she was high
that night was her mother.
high
Around 9:30 p.m., the two chatted, and the teenager informed her mother that Sherry had given her some vitamin capsules. Mrs. Hank told her daughter to return them. Diane said she would, but added, "You know, it would be kind of hard. You know how Sherry is." The two spoke again after 10 p.m. Diane reported that her hair was up in pin curls and she'd be home soon. However, an hour later, she called to tell her mother that Wayne had gone out and hadn't returned, and so she had no way of getting home. The pair agreed that it would be easier for her to stay the night with the Fong family, given how late it was. However, after this call, Diane vanished. The following day, Mrs. Hank called Sherry, who told her that her daughter had gotten on the bus at 8 a.m. She and Diane had retired to bed at around 11:30 p.m. the night before and had woken late. Although Sherry had offered the teenager a lift, Diane declined and said she would get the bus. But she never arrived at school and never came home. In fact, there was no trace of the teenager anywhere.
Bro, I'm really concerned my concern is to why is there nobody seeing anything, no supervision, like when you're doing something you're not supposed to, people gonna look at you. When you're doing what you're supposed to do, niggas are not gonna look at you. They're not. So my best guess is how the hell she didn't get to school, right? But it's throwing me off.
The police were quick to jump into an investigation. The Fongs were the first to fall under suspicion, not only because they were the last people to see Diane alive, but also because they were a mixed-race couple, something that was seen as unusual at the time. and there was a local rumor that Wayne was involved in some shady business and had links to organized crime syndicates. He had pled
Oh.
guilty to a narcotics charge 6 years earlier. Detectives reportedly felt the couple was responsible for the supposed moral corruption of the teenager. Accusations, gossip, judgment, and racism clouded the case. Some people lost interest when they found out that Diane had a daughter outside of wedlock. Others simply held racist beliefs about Wayne Fong and perpetuated unsubstantiated rumors. That said, from the outside, the situation was odd, even for 1954. Why was Sherry, a 23-year-old woman, so close to a 16-year-old schoolgirl? Why
Insane.
did the couple allow the teenager
Oh,
to stay the
grown-ass
night?
adult.
Why did they lavish her with pricey gifts?
Bro, it's obvious that they killed her. Or they probably accessory to the fact where like they got that 16-year-old girl killed, bro. They're grown ass adults. Like you gonna let some strange kid in your crib. You bro, like you probably don't even know the kid, and the kid is 16 going into your house, bro. You know that's something. Why would y'all do that?
By today's standards, their actions appear very predatory. Following Diane's disappearance, Sherry placed a personal ad in the local paper, which read, "Diane, please contact me. Regardless of your present circumstances or anything you may have done, I'll help you all I can. Sherry." An undercover officer later stated their belief that the Fongs were being thrown to the wolves, that the team investigating the case were under pressure to solve it and close it, and they were looking for anyone they could pin the blame on. Several of the 16-year-old's classmates came forward after she went missing. One of them told the authorities that they'd seen her downtown on the day of her disappearance. Another reported bumping into her at a department store a few weeks later. However, none of the sightings could be verified. Another suspect in the case was Kenneth Martin, Diane's boyfriend and Catherine's father. Reportedly, he told the 16-year-old that he would kill her if he ever saw her with another boy. Understandably, Diane found this statement incredibly distressing. However, the evidence of his threats comes only from Sherry, who claims Diane told her this. She also stated the teenager was so distraught that she was suicidal. She said Diane once told her, "If he stands me up again, I'll kill myself." There were also allegations that Sherry told a bartender that the teenager had taken her own life, and that she had said to the police that Diane had contributed perhaps 75% to her own death. On February 26th,
Damn,
Diane's
yo.
body was found on a steep hill on the south side of Evergreen Highway in Clark County, Washington. She was wrapped in 2 blankets and a sheet and tied with rope. She was wearing the same clothes she had worn when she went round to the falls. There were Kirby grips in her hair, which had been shaped into curls and held in place with the grips, and she was not wearing stockings or her shoes. Almost all of Diane's clothing looked intact, except for her bra, which was only partially fastened and had been moved up over her breasts. It was determined that she had died from barbiturate poisoning or from the mixing of barbiturates and alcohol. The teenager had never been prescribed barbiturates. In the pocket of Diane's jumper, investigators found a small plastic medicine bottle. It was about 2/3 full. The capsules contained rubramine, commonly known as vitamin B12, and a multivitamin. Sherry had already told the police that the pills the 16-year-old had told her mother about were vitamins, so this appeared to line up. Forensics showed that black, straight, coarse hair was found on the inner surface of the blanket wrapped around Diane's body. Further examination of the strands showed that they belonged to someone of Asian ancestry. It was similar to a sample taken from Wayne Fong, and another defendant who was later tried in court, Kwong Tin Yi. Forensics also revealed that on the outer blankets and on the back of Diane's underwear, there was a black, sooty material, similar to a substance found in the Fong's basement. Investigators later theorized
Found
the
the hell in
teenager
them.
was dragged across the basement floor, which is how she ended up with the soot on the back of her body. Adding to this was
Ooh.
that Sherry reportedly told a married couple that her life was so fantastic, "I even found a body in my basement," or "there was a body in my basement." When they asked her to expand on this, she told them, "It will be in all the newspapers." A spot of blood was also found in the Fong's car, but it could not be determined whether it was human or not. Notably, 5 days after Diane went missing, Sherry reportedly had the car, including its trunk, washed and cleaned. The circumstantial evidence against the Fongs was compelling, and it seemed like new details were constantly coming to light with the discovery of Diane's body. A Filipino man who had once been employed by Wayne Fong, Pio Rego, claimed Wayne had talked to him about a dead body in January of 1954, told him the body was in the car, and, quote, "He tell me to come help him." Reportedly, Wayne later told Rego that he would kill him if he didn't keep his mouth shut. Soon, Sherry was brought in for questioning. She was interrogated for hours without breaks, and over the course of 16 hours, provided the police with no useful information. Authorities used several strategies to attempt to get a confession, including having one of her friends question her involvement, but Sherry denied having anything to do with Diane's death. The police believed the Fongs had given the teenager barbiturates that killed her, but neither half of the couple would confess. Despite this, a grand jury indicted both Sherry and Wayne, as well as a third person, Huang Ting-yi, who spent much of his time at the Fongs' house and is believed to have been a business associate of Wayne's. At their first trial, Wayne and Sherry were found guilty of murder and sentenced to death by gas chamber. However, the judge overturned the verdict, asserting that the prosecution failed to provide anything more than circumstantial evidence. In subsequent trials, it was revealed that the Fongs were heavily involved in the Portland drug scene, and that Wayne in particular was an important part of a criminal organization. Sherry was tried again, but a mistrial was declared. She was convicted a third time, but again, this was overturned. She was tried for a fourth time, only to be acquitted. At some point between her third and fourth trials, she told a planted police informant that the Chinese syndicate wanted Diane dead for talking too much. She reportedly offered the syndicate $125,000 to leave the teenager alone. Wayne also ended up a free man, although in 1958 he was arrested and charged for dealing heroin. He pled guilty and was given 20 years behind bars, but was paroled after 12. Following his release, he immediately returned to Portland on a life of crime. He was convicted in 1973 of possession of heroin and cocaine, and died accidentally in prison in 1976, after falling in the shower. Sherry Fong kept a low profile after...
Homie fell in the shower? Damn. He had to be on like something like high and then fell. Something.
After her husband was sent to prison. Although she had been attending university when Diane died, she never completed her studies. In 1987, she agreed to probation for tampering with drug records and died later that year, aged 56. Diane's case remains unsolved. And there you have the facts. Please leave a comment down below with your own theories and speculations, and remember to like this video and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.
Yo, hey man, y'all heard it from him. You heard it from Cold Case Detective, man. Stay safe. Stay on. Fuck, I'm tired, yo. It's early in the fucking morning. Yo, stay on y'all P's and Q's. Shit. Man, let me know in the comments what I should react to next, man. And just like y'all stay on y'all P's and Q's, cause like shit like this can happen, you feel me? So alright man, I'm finna end the video off. And that's pretty much all I gotta say, man. Man, y'all stay blessed, y'all stay safe, man. I'm out, man. Peace.